Hello friends, good evening. Hope you're keeping safe. This is Mission Possible by PK and I am Bharat, a chartered accountant by profession. So today we will move on with the next chapter in the paper 2 of accounts module. As I said, I wish to complete the accounts module as soon as possible so that it becomes easy for you to practice as many questions as possible, because the other two subjects are mostly theoretical. This is the only one which has some practical questions associated with it. So we will first try to complete this module as soon as possible, and in the meanwhile I will also be posting videos of other two subjects as well. So in the morning session today we have covered chapter 2, and in chapter 2 we have covered some of the most important basics, and we have covered some of the concepts in accounting like your cost concept, realization concept, and we have covered some conventions of accounting like convention of materiality, consistency, and we have covered some basic aspects of accounting in overall. Now this unit 3, this is where your actual accounting starts. In this unit 3 we will learn a lot about journal entries. So many people have this question: what is this debit, what is this credit, how a journal has to be posted, how do we know which entry we have to post? So all those aspects will be covered in your unit 3. So unit 3 is one of the important lessons for you which you need to understand, because this is the basic, or this is the foundation for your all the remaining lessons in accounting module. So please try to concentrate and watch the videos over and over again so that you can develop a better understanding on it. So unit 3 is all about your journal entries. So we will just start with, first of all, what is a journal? Journal is nothing but a list of all the accounting entries which you post. So simply, so what happens in a journal, because in earlier days there was not any systematic accounting, there never was used to be any ERP or any other software packages. So people used to maintain a book, and that used to be called as the journal book. So what used to happen in the journal book, it has a serial order. So serial number 1, serial number 2, serial number 3, and it has a lot of columns. Like it used to have description column, pardon my handwriting, and it used to have columns like amount, and used to have columns like debit, and it used to have columns like credit. So whenever a transaction used to occur, for example, someone pays a salary, so they just put an entry, salary account debit to salary payable. So they just post the amount in this journal, and they just post amount 100, whatever it might be, amount is not important here. So like this, each and every transaction used to be recorded in a book, and this book is called as a journal or a journal book. So it has all the transactions that happens in the form of an accounting entry. So if at all you want to know the total salary balance, then you have to count individually. Like, you have to see entry number 1, and again if there is an entry in 4 related to salary, then you have to add this amount also. So only if you add 1000, and again here if you have 100, so 1000 plus 100, like this you have to count each and every heading of a particular expense. There will be salary, there will be rent, there will be insurance. So you have to manually add all these in order to arrive at the total balance of that particular ledger. Now the question comes, what is ledger? So now as you know what a journal book is, ledger is nothing but these descriptions which you see here is your ledger. Ledger is an individual account dedicated for a particular purpose. It may be related to anything. For salary, you have a separate ledger. Similarly, for rent, you have a separate ledger. I will just delete this and I will just tell you. So journal book, just now you have seen, it is a book, just like how you write your class notes or homework. It contains all the transactions in it, whereas ledger is an individual account dedicated for each and every specific purpose. For example, there will be a salary ledger account, there will be a rent ledger account, there will be an insurance ledger account. So each and every expense category or your asset category or your liability category will have a ledger account. So what is the purpose of this ledger? Just now I have told you, if you need to know the total salary paid in that particular year, if you can count the ledger balances here, you can just know the total amount which is paid. Because in journal book what happens, transactions are recorded in a haphazard manner. That means You have to count the transactions. One transaction may be in page 1, another transaction may be in page 5. So you cannot do this manual counting. So what happens is that there is a separate ledger book in the olden days. Nowadays it is all software customized, but in the olden days what used to happen is there used to be a journal book and also there used to be a ledger book. In ledger book there are separate accounts for each and every ledger, like what I have shown you here. There used to be separate accounts for salary, rent, insurance. For every account there used to be a ledger balance. What is the purpose of this ledger balance? The final balance here is what appears in your trial balance or your profit and loss account or your balance sheet. So the balance here straight away goes to your P&L account. You cannot keep manual counting, right? How many each month, how much you paid and all. So if you have a ledger, you can straight away find that, whole year you paid 1,000 rupees, and in your profit and loss account, straight away you can put salary and you can put 1,000 instead of counting manually. So the distinction here should be clearly known by you. Journal book is like an entire class book or your homework notes where all the transactions are recorded and there is no sequential order. If you want to find a balance, you have to count it. So in order to reduce that burden, a ledger account is opened for each individual account or each individual purpose, for salary or for rent, for insurance, for sales, purchase, every account, name it, and you have a ledger account for it. The purpose of ledger account is to have a track of all that expenses of that particular nature in one single account, and the final balance goes to your profit and loss or balance sheet. So that is the main distinction here between a journal and a ledger. Hope this is very much clear to you. Okay. So that is what here it is explained. I will not go through the theoretical aspects of this because I wish to cover this in a practical manner. And so far what I have explained now is given here in theoretical form. You can just have a look at it later when we give this PDF to the group members of our Telegram channel. So, just for namesake, I'm just telling, journal is something which contains record of every transaction. It is like a classwork notebook. Every transaction, everything that you do appears in that notebook. Cash book is nothing but cash book similar to your ledger. For each and every item, just now we have seen that there is a separate ledger account. Similarly, for cash also there is something called as cash book. So what happens in your cash book is that you maintain a record of only the cash aspects. You will be paying a lot of amounts to people. You will be receiving a lot of amounts from people. So you will record the transactions in your cash book based upon the receipts and payments. It is also one kind of a ledger account only. And the purpose here is to record all the cash transactions. And next, accounting cycle includes the following. First one is recording, that is your journal entry. Next is classifying, finding the appropriate ledger. You cannot post an entry as it is. You cannot post a salary entry in rent. You cannot post a rent entry in insurance. So you have to classify it according to the nature. And finally, summarizing. Summarizing is nothing but calculating the ledger balances and posting it to your trial balance or profit and loss account. However, we will see this trial balance, profit and loss, everything at a later stage. But for now, you just remember that this journal book is a big notebook kind of thing wherein all the transactions are recorded, and ledger is a separate account for each individual purpose. So ledger here is, again, if you can just read the bold definition, I think that would be enough for now. Ledger is the principal books of accounts where similar transactions, similar means same nature, only salary, only rent, are all posted and recorded. So that is the purpose of your ledger. So here the relationship between ledger is given and journal. So journal is an overall book and ledger is a subsidiary book. Like this, you can call it as the mother of all transactions, and this will be like a baby. And just like how you have different accounts for each individual transactions, even ledger has different accounts for every particular transaction. So that is what is explained here. Book of original entry, book of secondary entry. That means all the transactions are first recorded here, and then you have the subsidiary ledger account, and then it is maintained account wise, whereas this is mentioned sequentially. Okay, and this must be balanced, this need not be balanced. Yes, this need not be balanced because it is recorded in a different manner, like sometimes debit, sometimes credit and all. But whereas your ledger should be balanced, the debit and credit should be equal. Then that is when your entire profit and loss account becomes equal. So before going into the journal entry transactions, we will first learn about a few account categories. Okay, in accounts there are basically two accounts. I will just explain that here. One is your personal account. The second one is your impersonal account. Okay. So what happens in your personal account and what happens in your impersonal account, we will just see it. And if you can see, impersonal account is again divided into two categories. One is your real account, another one is your nominal account. You know, impersonal account is generally classified again into two types. One is your real account, another one is your nominal account. So please pay attention to these things because this is the foundation based upon which you will pass the journal entries. So first we will cover personal account. So what is a personal account? The name itself suggests personal. That means person. Each and every person will be having an account. Example, you will be purchasing a goods from X. So X is a personal account, isn't it? You will be selling goods to Y. Y is a personal account. Why is it a personal account? Because the name of the party is mentioned here. As the name of the parties are mentioned, it becomes a personal account. So you may have a doubt. Sometimes we sell to a company. Yes, we sell to a company called as XYZ Limited. Even that is also a personal account, even though sometimes it is called as an artificial person because company is not a natural person. Here X and Y are natural persons because they are human beings, whereas XYZ Limited is a company, so it is an artificial person. So even a company is also will be coming under a personal account. So this is the definition of your personal account. Personal account, you can see the person, natural person. Natural person means in the name of a particular person. X, Y, Bharat or whatever name you can call. If an account has a name, then it is a personal account. It may be a company name, you know, just now what I have explained to you, artificial personal account like firm's account, club account, XYZ account. All these are also personal account. Similarly, there is something called as a representative personal account. That means it represents a group of people. What is that? Salary outstanding. Why it is a personal account? Because it represents the salary of a group of people. Who are those people? Again, they are personal, isn't it? They are X, Y, Z, A, B, C who are working for the company and their salary is represented by salary outstanding. So it is like a representative personal account. That means it represents a group of people. Similarly, rent. Rent is also a personal account because you are going to pay to a particular person. So rent represents something which is a personal transaction. So all this comes under personal account. So you have to identify the nature here, friends. That is most important. As in when we progress in the next stage, you will definitely understand the distinction. But for now, personal account is something which has the name of a person. It may be a natural person. It may be an artificial person like a company, or it may be a representative person. So that is what the definition of your personal account is. Bank is an artificial person because it is a company. Tata Iron and Steel, it is also a company. Alpha is a name, just like X, Y, Bharat and all. Capital is contributed by the owner. Owner is a person, so it is a personal account. Bank loan is given by whom? Bank loan is given by a bank. Who is a bank? Bank is an artificial person. So you have to identify the actual nature behind that name in order to classify it as a personal account. Rent outstanding, just now we have seen, it is paid to whom? It is paid to a particular person. If it's paid to a particular person, then that person is what? A personal account, isn't it? So it is a representative personal account. So hope you understood the personal account definition. Next comes to your real account. Real account is something, again it can be classified into two types. I'll just erase this. So in real account, we will see, sorry friends. Real account again, there are two aspects to it. One is tangible, another is intangible. So what is tangible here? Tangible is something which can be touched, which can be felt. Intangible is something which is not touchable. You cannot touch it or feel it. What is the example for tangible? Asset. What is an asset here? Plant and machinery, building. What is an intangible? intangible, there is something called as copyrights. There is something called as patents. So here, tangible, plant and machinery, can you touch it? Yes. Building, can you see it? Yes, you can see it, you can touch it. Copyrights, can you feel it? Can you see it? Can you touch it? No. Patents, no. It just exists in a piece of paper and not in real time. So real account is something which is generally associated with your assets, and it can be again classified into two types. One is tangible, another one is intangible. So this is what your real account. Real account is one subcategory of your impersonal account. So here there are some examples given: plant and machinery, investment, land and building, stock in hand, bill receivable, trademarks, cash. All those that can be touched and felt is coming under the category of tangible real account. All those which cannot be touched and felt comes under the category of intangible. Intangible category, only few items will be there, friends, like goodwill, patents, trademark, royalty. All these are something which are intangible. Apart from this, if anything comes, then you can straight away consider it as a tangible. Plant and machinery, yes, you can touch and feel. Land and building, yes, you can touch and feel. Stock, yes, you can go and see it and touch it and feel it. Bills receivable, cash, everything, all these things are something which has tangible asset. Okay. Again, in impersonal account, the second category is your nominal account. Nominal account are generally opened in the books to explain the nature of transactions. So what is the nature of transactions? Nature of transactions here means, just now we have seen some time ago, nature of transactions depends upon the purpose of that particular account. For example, in your expense, you will have a lot of expenses. For example, I am taking wages, salaries, rent, commission. So all these are expenses which are classified according to their nature, isn't it? Wages are generally paid to the laborers. Salaries are paid to the official administrative staff. Rent is paid to the building owner or the factory owner. Commission is generally paid to the salespersons. So all these are classified according to their nature. Any expense category which has a particular nature, then that comes under your nominal account. Nominal account generally includes your expenses and income according to their nature. Similarly, on income side, you have something called as discount received. It is your income, isn't it? Commission received. Sometimes you act as a commission agent to other people. So that is your income. So interest income. So all these are on the income side. So these are classified according to their nature. So that's why these are called as nominal accounts. And one simple logic here which you can remember will be good. All the P&L items are coming under your category of nominal account, because in P&L, all that you do is to post entries according to their nature. If you look at a sample financial statement, then you can identify that P&L has income and expense. Income is what I have shown you now. Expense is also what I have shown you now. So a simple logic, you can just keep that in mind. It is one kind of a trick or a tip which, if you keep in mind, is good for you. All the P&L items or all the expense items and the incomes items are generally coming under your category of nominal account. Similarly, all the asset categories or your liability categories come under your category of real account. That means your balance sheet items come under your category of real account. It is not always 100% true, friends, but you can just remember this for now. So this is simple technique in order to identify whether that particular account will come under P&L or not. Okay. And another thing is your personal account. Personal account generally comes in various categories, but most probably it will be coming under your balance sheet only, because that is when you record a transaction. We will cover that in the coming few minutes. So hope you understood the difference between a nominal account and a real account and a personal account. So next we will move to the other category. So far we have covered personal account, and in impersonal account we have covered real accounts, and then there is something called as nominal accounts. The short technique which I have told you, nominal accounts is generally related to your P&L account, that is your expenses and income. whereas the real accounts are generally related to your balance sheet items, which is like your assets, and personal accounts are mostly related to your names of people. Okay, we will cover in detail. So for now, you can just go with the flow. So already we have seen cash book. Cash book is something just like a ledger wherein you record only the cash transactions in the sense only that has an impact of cash. That means you pay to someone, you received someone, you paid rent, you received discount. All these things will be recorded in your cash book. Anything that has a monetary impact will be recorded in your cash book. There are different types of cash book. One is your simple single column cash book. The format is given here. This is just for your understanding. No need to pay much attention to it. And then you have your 2-column cash book. In 2-column cash book, generally you have something called as cash here, and then you have something called as discount, because sometimes discount is given while purchasing or while selling. So what you mention is like you mention the discount in a separate column and cash in a separate column. So that is the difference between a single column cash book and a 2-column cash book. This is just for your remembrance and nothing much to do with it. And 3-column cash book is quite huge in size. They have a different column. One is for cash, one is for bank, and then they have column for discount, and it just keeps on adding. They can do whatever with it with the cash book, but the most common is having your cash book in a simple with a debit and credit. That is how in general cash book looks. And then you have petty cash book. Petty cash book is different from cash book because cash book is something which related to huge cash expenses, whereas petty cash is related to all your smaller cash amounts. Petty, the name itself suggests like for simple expenses like postage. You can see here postage, stationery, traveling, food bills. What happens is sometimes these are smaller expenses which needs to be paid to the employees. Sometimes someone goes and buys a cup of tea for the entire staff, so 20 rupees, 30 rupees. These are generally recorded in your petty cash book. However, petty cash book forms part of your larger cash book because this is also cash, that is also cash. But the only distinction is, some organizations have this petty cash book where they say that anything lesser than 5,000 will go to your petty cash. Anything more than 5,000 will go to your larger cash book. So it depends upon how you want to maintain your cash book. There is no necessity actually to maintain a petty cash book. But in olden days, people used to do it because if you record each and everything in the cash book, it becomes too clumsy. So generally they used to maintain separate cash book. One is for all your smaller petty items and another is for all your larger items like sales, salaries, rent, etc. Next comes your important concept of journalizing. Journalizing is recording a transaction in a debit and credit format. This is the general format which people used to follow when they used to maintain physical books of accounts. They used to write the date first and then the particulars, that means your ledger entry like salary to salary payable, rent to rent payable, ledger folio number. I told you each and every account here will have a separate ledger, so they will write the ledger folio number of that particular account also, so that it becomes easy for them to refer that particular number when they have to arrive at the ledger balances. And then you have the debit amount, you have the credit amount. So this is what your general journal book looks like and your general entry looks like. So here there are 3 important golden rules of accounting. So we will cover that now. This is the most important part which you need attention. So first account that we saw in our previous few minutes was personal account, isn't it? Personal account. So what we told in personal account, it relates to people. It relates to people X, XY, XYZ, or your bank, whatever it is. If it is attached to a personal, it may be natural, it may be artificial like XYZ bank. So all these comes under your personal account. So when you spot a personal account, what is the journal entry that you should pass? So that is the most important crux here which is being explained, and the journal entry that you pass is debit the receiver, and credit the giver, credit the giver. So this thing you should always keep in mind. This is the first golden rule of accounting, and this applies to your personal account. Debit the receiver, credit the giver. So we can see the example here. Goods worth 5,000 sold to Alpha. That means we as a company sold 5,000 to Alpha. So Alpha is the receiver of the goods. So it has to be debited. So that is what your journal entry is. Okay. So what happens is like, example, debit the receiver and credit the giver. So we sold 100 rupees worth goods to X. Okay. So who is X here? X is the person who is receiving the goods on our behalf. So X is the person who has to pay us money, isn't it? So X is the receiver. So what is the rule saying here? Receiver debit. So we have to debit X always. Okay. And credit sales. Credit sales. So sales is a nominal account. We will come to that next stage. But for now, you just identify who the receiver and giver in this transaction is. In this transaction, the receiver is X. So you have to debit X. Okay. So that is the logic here. So maybe now you have a question like, if X is the receiver, then we are the giver. Then obviously we have to credit us. No, it doesn't happen like that. So here you have to think in terms of money, friends. So receiver is the one, that means receiver. Debit the receiver, we have to receive money from him, isn't it? We have to receive money from him. If we have to receive money from him, we have to debit him. But do we need to give anything to him in terms of money? No, isn't it? We don't need to give anything to him in terms of money, because what we sold here is goods and not money. But what we are receiving in exchange is money. So you think here in terms of money angle. Because we have to receive money from X, he has to be debited. Okay, debit the receiver. So you can think in two angles. One is in terms of sale of goods, another is in terms of receiver. Debit the receiver and credit the giver. So this is a simple transaction which you need to keep in mind. The next one is something which we will cover, real account. So here real account, the principle is, so in real account what happens is, second golden rule of accounting. Okay, it is real account. So in real account, just like we have seen real account examples, plant and machinery or cash. Most of these items are related to your balance sheet accounts, are not profit and accounts. So here the golden rule is debit. I am writing DR, debit what comes in, credit what goes out. So this is what you have to do when it comes to real account. Simple example, cash received, cash received 100 rupees. So here you have to debit cash. So first thing when you see this transaction is you should identify the type of account. Is cash a personal account? No. Is cash a real account? Yes. So if it is a real account, what does the rule say? Debit what comes in and credit what goes out. So you have to debit 100 to cash account. So this is the logic behind it. Okay, debit cash and credit. For example, if you have done this for sales, then what happens is sales 100 goes to your credit. That comes under your nominal account, which is your next rule. Cash received 100 rupees for sale of goods. Okay, for sale of goods. This is the journal entry which you should pass. So here what are the two important things? One is cash. What is the other thing? Sale of goods. So you have to identify what it exactly says. So I will just now open a different page so as to explain to you the nominal account principle. So the third account which we were speaking is of your nominal account. I already told you nominal account is mostly related to your P&L items, which is of expenses and income. Example, you can consider salary, rent. So now the rule here is, third important rule, debit all expenses, credit all income. So this is the third important rule. So the first rule is what? Personal account. Personal account rule is debit the receiver, credit the giver. The second one is real account. In real account, what is the rule? Debit what comes in, credit what goes out. And third is your nominal account, which is related to your expenses and income. Debit all expenses and credit all income. So example here, we have to pay salary of rupees 100. We have to pay. We have not paid. We have to pay. So what is the entry? It is an expense, isn't it? First thing, you should identify the nature of transaction. What is being happened here? For example, we have to pay. That means we have to pay. So we have to record this now, because what I told you in our previous lecture, accrual concept has a distinction between the transaction happening and cash payment. That means if the obligation arises, then we have to book that entry in the system. The payment can be done tomorrow, day after tomorrow, or you don't do it. That doesn't matter. But when you have the right to receive an income, you should record the transaction. Similarly, when you have the duty to make a payment, you have to record that transaction. So that was your concept of accrual. Hope you remember that. Okay. So now salary of rupees 100 is what we have the question. And now first thing which you should identify is what is salary. Is it, you just try to do the odd one out method. First, personal account. Is salary a personal account? No. Is salary a real account? Obviously salary outstanding, salary payable, all those are representative personal accounts. But as such, salary is an expense. So it comes under your third category of nominal account. So in nominal account, what you should do? All expenses should be debited. So now you have to pass a journal entry which says that debit salary of 100. Every journal entry should be matched by a corresponding credit entry. So as we are yet to pay it, we will have a payable account, salary payable, which is your balance sheet account, and you put a 100 rupees entry in that credit. So now the 100 here matches with this 100 here. That means your debit and credit both matches. So that is something which you should always ensure when posting a journal entry. So now the question comes to your mind, what is the salary payable account? Can you just recall what I said to you in your personal account? There can be personal, there can be artificial, and there can be representative. Representative represents a group of people. Salary is paid to employees. Employees are persons, and hence it is a representative personal account. Instead of mentioning the person name, we are writing salary payable, which represents money payable to various people. This 100, assume that it has to be paid to 10 people. So instead of writing the 10 names, we have written in a consolidated manner as salary payable. So this comes under your personal account. Personal account, again, what is the rule? debit the receiver and credit the giver. So that is what we have done here. We have credited salary payable 100, debit the receiver, credit the giver. So this is the logic behind this. Hope you understood this transaction very well. So this is the basic of accounting. To make it more simple, I will just convert this into a much simpler example so that you can understand it in a much better way. So here, this salary example again we will take it, okay? So now we have covered the important rules, okay? Rules are generally for those people who generally start now the accounting, but once you tend to develop the logic, then these rules need not be, kept in your mind. You automatically get that. So now I will cover that as well. This salary payable entry can be, just now we have seen salary to salary payable. This can be traced in a different way. So salary to be paid 100 rupees. To be paid, that means payable. So what are the two important concepts here? One is salary, another is payable. Salary is an expense account, correct? So expense account means debit, right? Debit your salary 100. Another simple way of looking at this is payable. Payable means, is it a liability or an asset? Just think and tell me. Is it a liability for the company or an asset? Obviously it is a liability because the company has to pay it. The company has not yet paid it. So what does your balance sheet logic says? I explained that to you in our earlier video. In balance sheet, all your liabilities are recorded as a credit balance. All your assets are recorded as a debit balance. Liability is a credit balance because you have the obligation or liability to pay that. That is why your liability is a credit balance. So you don't here think in terms of your banking. Generally if you are working in bank, so you may get confused here because when you receive some amount, your bank sends a message that amount has been credited in your account. But here it just works the opposite way. Bank amount entries and company amount entries are different. When you receive cash in your bank, you get a message credited. But actually when you record the transaction in the company's books of accounts, cash is an asset. So cash, if anything is received, it will have a debit balance. It will not have a credit balance. Credit balance is only for the banker, but not for your company. So here for the time being, you should ignore your banking concept of credit or deposit and withdrawal. That is totally different. Here you have to think in terms of only two aspects. One is profit and loss, another is balance sheet. So now I will make it more simpler. Any entry should have a corresponding balance sheet impact. Yes or no? Yes. If not, then how will the balance tally? You just think it will not tally because both profit and loss and balance sheet are linked to each other. It should have a corresponding impact and then only it will tally. How? I will just explain to you now. So now we have seen payable is a liability. So payable is a liability. So what is it? Liability is a credit balance. So salary payable 100. Your debit is 100, your credit is 100. It is matched. So now you have a question. Okay sir, payable is done. Now next, when will we pay this? Yes, the next point is that only. When will we pay? We will pay in the next step. When we will pay? We will pay it when the time comes for the salary payment. That is at the last day of month or first day of month. At that time, what is the two things which happens? What happens? Salary payable becomes paid. How do you pay it? This is one aspect. How do you pay it? Cash. Isn't it? This is the second aspect. Now, these two aspects come into the picture. So, cash. Cash means which account? Real account. Real account, what does it say? Debit what comes in and credit what goes out. So cash is coming in or going out? We are paying salary. So cash is obviously going out. That means your balance is decreasing by 100. So credit cash balance, credit cash. You don't get confused here with your banking terminology, friends. That is totally different. This is totally different. Credit cash in terms of your real account. Credit what goes out, debit what comes in. So we are crediting cash. So what is the debit entry now? What are we doing here first? We are paying your salary. So this account payable has 100 rupees balance in it, isn't it? So once we pay this, what is the balance in this account? Once we pay this, what is the balance in this account? It will become 0. So this account is nullified. There is no obligation or your liability is over. Now there is a payable balance in your account for 100 credit. In order to nullify it, what will you do? You will just reverse this. That means you will debit your salary payable for the same amount of 100 and credit cash. So what happens ultimately? Your payable account gets knocked off. That means your liability is over. There is no longer a liability in the balance sheet. So there is only expense of 100 which you should record in your profit and loss account, because that is your actual expense which you incurred, and then your cash balance decreases by 100. So you show credit of cash balance of 100. So this is the net entry that happens. Hope this is understood by you. If not, I will explain it once again, friends, so that it becomes clear to you. This is the basic, or this is the foundation, friends. So please pay much attention to it, because if you are clear in this concept, then everything gets clear to you. I know this is a difficult bit for those who are into non-accounting background, but this is one of the most easiest concepts which you can easily understand, and I am just trying to make it as simple as possible. So I will just once again recap this, friends, because this is important for you to learn. So what we have seen now is real account. So first thing that we saw here is your personal account, and second thing that we saw here was your impersonal account. Impersonal again was divided into two types. One was your real account, another was your nominal account, isn't it? So we covered a few journal transactions. Now in order to make it more simpler, we will cover a few more journal transactions, okay? You just remember the rules for all of this. You know, for personal account, it is debit the receiver, credit the giver. For real account, it is debit what comes in, credit what goes out. For your nominal account, debit expenses, credit income. Any journal entry will be covering only in these three accounts, in these three rules. These are called as your golden rules of accountancy. So these rules should be always there in your mind. So whenever a question comes, first you have to identify the nature of transaction, what is happening, how the transaction will be routed, and then you can easily pass the journal entry. So now here we will see, you know, a few things here so that it becomes easy for you to understand, okay? So the question here is paid rent, okay? Paid, understand, it is not payable, it is paid rent 500, okay? Now you have to tell me how many things are there in this, you know, paid rent. So one is your cash, correct? That means your cash is going out, correct? Second thing is your nominal account. This is nothing but an expense account. This is the second aspect. So real account, what is the principle for real account? 500 is cash, correct? Cash real account principle, what is it? Debit what comes in, credit what goes out. So what is going out here, friends? Cash is going out. Your cash balance is going out. So credit, we have to credit that because your cash balance is being reduced. Generally, your cash balance will have a debit balance because it is an asset. Because it is going out, you have to reduce it. So in order to reduce it, you have to credit it. Totally opposite to your banking terminology. Okay. We will pass an entry, credit cash 500 rupees. What is the second aspect? Rent. What is rent? What is rent? What is rent? Rent is an expense. It is coming under the category of nominal account. Nominal account, what does it say? Debit all your expenses. So rent has to be debited. Rent has to be debited for 500 rupees. Debit rent. So your debit and credit both are 500. Both are tallied. Rent goes to your profit and loss account. Cash goes to your balance sheet account. As I have told you, all your entries will definitely have two corresponding impact. One is your P&L impact. Another one is your balance sheet impact. That is when your accounts will tally. We will learn more about this. There is a separate chapter called as final accounts. At that point of time, we will totally deep diverge into profit and loss and balance sheet. But for now, you just need to know the journal entry concept. How do we pass a journal entry? Okay. So this is your first example. So next, what comes? Next example, we will again see. Sorry friends, give me 2 minutes. Next example, we will just take a random example. Sold goods to Harsh. Sold goods to Harsh. We can take any other example as well. We have sold goods to Abhishek. Okay, sold goods to Abhishek for 1000 rupees. So now what is the two important things which you should need to keep in mind here? Okay, what is the important things? One is Abhishek, isn't it? Who is Abhishek? He is a personal account because the name of the person is coming here. Personal account, what is the concept friends? Personal account comes under your first personal account thing, under which the rule says debit the receiver and credit the giver. What is the second aspect here? Sold goods. Sold means sales. We are making a sales. So if we are making a sales, what are we getting here? Even if you identify one part of the transaction friends, the other part gets easy. So that is the beauty of accounting here. So now if you identify what sales is, you can get easily identify the other part of the entry, isn't it? So what is sales here friends? Sales comes under your concept of nominal account because it is an income to the company. It is an income to the company. So simply write credit sales income. You can even write sales, doesn't matter, 1000. Now what is the corresponding debit entry for this? We have to debit Abhishek because he is the receiver of the goods and he is the one who has to pay us money. So if we have to receive money from someone, another concept, this is over. I will just tell you another logic as well, how to in fact treat this as a debit. So when we have to receive money from someone, is it an asset for us or a liability? Simply think and tell me. Obviously it is an asset for us because we are going to get money. And if we are going to get money and if it is an asset, then what does asset have? Which balance does asset have? Just now in my previous few minutes slides, I have told you liabilities have credit balance, assets has debit balance. So simple logic, debit, because we have to receive money, it is an asset. So we are debiting Abhishek because he is an asset for us and we have to receive the money. Generally, instead of debiting Abhishek, we can even put it under a common category called as debtors. Debtors. It is one and the same. Either you can mention the name or you can write it as debtors. It is one and the same, but the logic here you should identify, because it is a personal account, we are debiting the receiver. Second logic, because it is an asset, because we have to receive money, it is an asset for us and asset should have a debit balance. We are debiting Abhishek here for 1000 rupees. This is the logic here, friends. Hope you understood this properly. If not, please post your doubts in the Telegram group. I will again cover it to make it more simple. So we will just cover 2-3 more examples and close this video. And you can just remember these 3 golden rules and then it becomes easy for you, right friends? So some more examples we will just take into consideration, similar kind of examples, so that it becomes easy for you to understand. So now we will take an entry, we have paid to someone, okay? We received some money, this is just the opposite. So we received money from someone. So that means we have received some cash balance, okay? We have received cash received 100 rupees from Y. So what is the 2 things which you should identify first? What is the nature? What are the 2 things here? One is cash received, another is from Y. So now you tell me, first thing which we should do is to identify which account it belongs to. Cash. What is cash? Cash is a real account, because this time we are receiving cash. The rule says debit what comes in. And the second logic which I said, cash is an asset. Asset should have a debit balance. So if we receive money, obviously the debit balance is going to add up, isn't it? So if you see, we have a debit balance in cash account. That means in your asset account cash, there is 100, okay? If you receive money from someone, what happens? Your balance gets added, isn't it? So again, if you put 100, now your cash balance has a debit balance of 200. At the same time, now if you pay to someone, then you have to credit because it goes out. So you have to put minus 100 and again your cash balance becomes 100, which is again a debit balance because you still have an asset of 100 rupees. You still have a money of 100 rupees and assets have debit balances. So what is the entry now here, friends? So I have explained 2 logic. One is in terms of your golden rules. Second one in terms of your asset and profit and loss account. Because this is an asset account and because we are receiving money, we have to debit cash balance. We have to debit cash balance of 100. Only if we debit, our cash balance will add up and become 200, isn't it? Because your basic cash balance is a debit balance. And second thing is credit entry. So if you identify one part of it, the other part becomes easy for you. So obviously there is no choice for you except to credit Y. The logic Y is what? A personal account. Personal account means credit the giver, debit the receiver, debit the receiver and credit the giver. So Y is giving us this and hence we are crediting Y and hence your accounts gets closed, debit 100 and credit 100. Okay, so this is one logic behind this. Either you can think in terms of these 3 important rules or you can think in terms of your P&L and balance sheet concept. So we will cover one more example and close this video, friends. So the next example which we will cover, we will just take some example of rent. Same is the case just like your salary, okay? Rent, just to make it more easy for you, payable 100 rupees, rent payable to Z, anything, even if you don't have the name, it is fine because All the representative personal accounts comes under your personal account only, isn't it? Payable, salary payable, rent payable, they are paid to a group of people or a single person. So it comes under your personal account category. So two important things. One is rent, second is payable. So rent, what is rent, friends? Rent is an expense. Rent is an expense and it comes under your nominal account because rent is an expense. It is forming part of P&L. It comes under your nominal account. So what do we do with nominal account? We debit all the expenses. So debit rent expense for 100 rupees and credit what? Payable. Because we have not yet paid it, we will create a payable, rent payable of 100. You can think this in terms of both your personal account. Credit the giver. We are going to give here rent. So we are crediting rent payable. This rent payable represents a personal account. So it comes under your personal account category. Second logic is balance sheet logic. So just now we have seen asset of cash. Now you tell me, if you have a payable in your balance sheet, is it a liability or an asset? It is obviously a liability because you have to pay to someone. You have a liability to pay to someone. So here you will show a credit balance of 100 because you have to pay to someone, and all liabilities will have credit balances and all assets will have debit balances. So rent payable 100 is a credit balance because it is a liability. So simple logic, you credit your liability. Rent payable liability account 100 rupees. And rent account is obvious, it is a nominal expense account, so it is 100. So this logic, if you can keep in mind, it helps you to verify whether your entry is correct or not. First logic, you apply the golden rules of accountancy. Second logic is apply the P&L and balance sheet logic. So what is the P&L and balance sheet logic? Balance sheet logic, just now I have told you, refer to this. All liabilities will have credit balances. All asset will have debit balances. What is liability? Liability is something which has an obligation. The company has an obligation like rent payable, salary payable, loan payable. Everything is an obligation. If it is an obligation, it is a liability. And if it is a liability, it has a credit balance. Asset means debit balance. Just like what you have cash. Cash is a debit balance. If you purchased an asset, plant and machinery is an asset, so asset has a debit balance. So this is the rule which you should keep in mind. And then you have the profit and loss rule. In profit and loss rule, what you need to keep in mind is that all the expenses will have debit balances and all the income will have credit balances. So this is the simple logic. So rent is an expense or an income for you? It is obviously an expense because you have to pay to someone. It goes out of your pocket, so it becomes an expense to you. So expense is a debit balance. So that is also one logic. You debit rent and you credit rent payable. So I have now explained you this both in terms of your golden rules as well as in terms of your P&L and balance sheet logic. So now it should become easy for you. Even if you are right in one and wrong in the other, you can know that something is wrong. It just acts like a check for you whether what entry you have passed is correct or not. So always keep this in mind before finalizing an entry. First you start with the golden rules and then you also apply the balance sheet and profit and loss rule so that you can confirm that what you have passed is correct or not. We will cover more of this in the next few upcoming lectures, but for now you just remember these three important facts and these three important rules, and this is the basic of your accounting and journal entry posting. Please try to watch this video several times if you don't understand, and if you have any doubts, I am always there for you. You can just ping me in the Telegram group and I will be ready to answer your doubts. And we will be covering the deeper aspects of this in the next few videos, so don't worry about that. But this is just the basic and I want you to be strong in your basics so that the next few concepts becomes easy for you. And in my next lecture, again, I will just briefly explain this and then only move to the next topic just to act as a recap for you. Okay, guys. So I hope you understood this video, and I hope you will be able to pass a journal entry with much ease and effort after you have watched this entire video. And thank you for your time, and please do share this video among your friends. Thank you.